Many ages ago, death was defeated and sealed. Immortality is the norm, but the loss of death has led to a society of ultralights that rule over never-dying slaves. As Death's first reaper after the unsealing, you are here to remind him why death exists and why your master should be feared. 2 or 3 millennium ago, her death wouldn't have been a headline, a small obit on a news site, a couple of heartfelt posts from friends, maybe a couple of balloons, and a stuffed animal at her death site from coworkers. Her parents would have spent a small fortune securing her a plot and a headstone, and while they would grieve, the rest of the world would go on. Larry Jones, Pangea Corp employee, killed by falling masonry. Now, though, it had only been hours since the brick had tumbled from a floor high above, slamming into Leary's head at just over 60 miles per hour. Coincidentally, at the same time, across the world, a group of would-be revolutionists would be breaking an eldritch lock, releasing the fourth horseman, the Grim Reaper, death itself, from the shackles it had borne for the last few millennia. It had come as quite a shock to the surrounding workers when Leary did not immediately rise, complaining of the headache. An ever greater shock followed when the driver on duty knelt at her body, reporting in a shaky voice over his comms. Her heart isn't beating anymore, sir." Leary was the first death in over 3,000 years, and thus became the first Reaper in over 3,000 years. Many believed that death itself reaped souls when their time had come, but that was a common misconception. Death is a concept, an idea. Reapers are the ones who carry out the, well, reaping. Leary sat in the black swivel chair, idly clicking her legs as she stared out at the megalopolis that was slowly burning to the ground. The rebellion had started mere minutes after she'd died. From here, she could see the high rise she'd been working at. She chuckled then. If only she'd known what the day had held for her, she might have worn better clothes. She looked down on herself in the simple black singlet uniform of Pangea that she'd died in, the globe emblem emblazoned across her chest, and a simple identification number. LJ 34564. Couldn't even be bothered with learning her name, with the sheer amount of immortal workers operating in Pangea at any time. Well, they'd all get their comeuppance soon enough. She stood, turning away from the windows as she pulled out a simple switchblade from her inner pocket. She'd always carried it with her, even in life, though she couldn't kill anyone. Potential attackers often found themselves discouraged when threatened with a severed artery or appendage. It had now become her scythe, her tool, the one item in the universe that truly filled her with a sense of purpose. Voices filled the hallway outside the boardroom, and Leary looked up from her weapon as the door swung open, admitting a rather heavy-set man along with an entourage of guards. One of the last stragglers fired off a hail of bullets down the hall before slamming the door shut and bracing himself against it. "I don't understand," the heavy man wailed. "After all these years, why? Why?" "He's free," Larry replied simply, causing the guards and the corporate man to whip around at her. Without hesitation, the guards opened fire, a veritable rain of bullets, hurtling towards Larry. She simply crossed her arms behind her back and waited. As the windows behind her shattered, the projectile simply flew through her, meeting no resistance as one by one the guards emptied their clips. You're her, LJ 34564, the first death!" cried one of the guards, and Larry's amusement became evident as she recognized the driver who had announced her at the scene. She gave him a lazy smile. "Guess me getting in late was the least of your worries today, huh, Neil?" "You're dead. How? Why?" Leary sighed, spinning her knife idly across her fingers as she slowly approached the group. "Death is once again free after 3,000 years. Death stalks the earth, restoring the natural order of mankind once again. The era of immortality is over." She stopped, raising the blade as she pointed at the heavy man at the group center. "Sio Anoi, you will face judgment for the crime of imprisoning that which should never be imprisoned. Your time has long passed. Scattered to the wind, knowing death's eternal ire is yours to bear. Chi Sabia, Avonson, Calagrace, and Kindrathon, all that bore witness to the sealing of death, will face its judgment together." You're talking nonsense," Annoy blubbered, stepping back. "What are you waiting for?" he screamed at the guards. "Kill her!" With a wave of her hand, Leary passed judgment. A looming shadow seemed to sweep across the room, The guards dropped as one, their eyes rolled back into their heads as they slumped over each other. Leary gingerly picked her way over the corpses, approaching Co steadily. I'm sorry, Co, she said, her smile like that of a snake poised to strike. Another step, and her blade found itself plunged into the fat man's neck, blood spurting out in jets as he collapsed to his knees, fingers scrabbling for purpose on her arm. Leary leaned over him, her eyes cold. You can't kill what's already dead,